happens when love is built on a foundation of lies? How far can the human mind be pushed before it fractures under the weight of betrayal? This is not just a story of a relationship gone wrong. It's a chilling tale of trust shattered, emotions unbridled, and a descent into the darkest corners of human nature. Beneath every romantic fairy tale lies a reality too complex for fiction. When identity becomes a secret and truth becomes a risk, love can transform into a ticking time bomb. Society may applaud fairy tale unions, but what happens when those unions are forged in fear rather than transparency? This story forces us to question, is love unconditional? Or are there invisible lines we dare not cross? A whirlwind romance. Marcus Johnson, 32, was a man of unyielding values and deep devotion to family and faith. Working as a construction foreman, he was admired for his integrity and charm. Ebony Davis, 28, was his perfect match. Or so it seemed. A charismatic and successful hairstylist, Ebony was known for her poise and beauty. The couple met at a church fundraiser. Their connection was instant, their chemistry palpable. Within months, Marcus proposed, and Ebony eagerly accepted. Their friends described them as a power couple, destined for happiness. They were admired for their chemistry, a magnetic pull that inspired envy and admiration alike. But behind every perfect couple is a past, sometimes beautiful, sometimes painful, sometimes dangerous. Ebony had mastered the art of becoming who she needed to be, not just for Marcus, but for a society that rarely makes space for those like her. The honeymoon glow fades. The honeymoon should have been a time of bliss, but cracks began to show. Marcus noticed moments of distance in Ebony's demeanor, times when she seemed lost in thought, her joy clouded by an invisible weight. She was quiet sometimes, Marcus later told a friend. I thought she was just adjusting to being married. But it wasn't just adjustment. Ebony was struggling with a fear that had haunted her throughout their relationship. The fear of Marcus discovering the truth. She had built her life around this carefully guarded secret, convinced that love could transcend it. Each time Marcus held her, she felt the warmth of love, and the cold fear of what might happen if that love turned to hate. Ebony carried the burden of her truth like a ticking clock, knowing that every kiss, every embrace, could be the last before it all unraveled. In those moments of silence, her mind wasn't on the present. It was on the storm she knew was coming. Unease turns to suspicion. Months passed, and Marcus began to sense that something wasn't right. Ebony's secretive behavior, late-night texts, and reluctance to discuss her past only fueled his growing doubts. Driven by his suspicions, Marcus decided to investigate. One evening, while Ebony was out, he searched their home. In the back of their closet, hidden beneath piles of old clothes, he discovered a small box. Inside, he found documents that shattered his world. A birth certificate bearing the name Elijah Davis and medical records detailing Ebony's gender transition left no room for doubt. The woman he loved, the woman he had married, was not who she claimed to be. Marcus's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he stared at the documents, each word a dagger to the life he thought he knew. He felt betrayed, not just as a husband, but as a man, a Christian, a protector of family values he believed had been mocked. In his mind, he didn't just lose a wife that night. He lost his dignity, his manhood, and his entire sense of reality. The confrontation. Love turns to fury. When Ebony returned home, she found Marcus waiting for her. The documents were spread out on the table, like evidence in a courtroom. "You lied to me," Marcus said, his voice low and trembling. Ebony froze, her heart pounding. She knew this moment would come, but nothing could prepare her for the fury in Marcus's eyes. "Marcus, I was going to tell you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was just so scared. I love you. I didn't want to lose you." But Marcus couldn't hear her. His mind raced with betrayal, humiliation, and anger. "You let me love a lie. You tricked me into marrying you," he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. Ebony tried to reach him, her voice breaking with emotion. "Please, Marcus, listen to me. This doesn't change who I am. I'm still the same person you fell in love with." But her pleas only deepened his rage. The house that once echoed with joy was now filled with the sound of breaking illusions. To Marcus, the betrayal wasn't just personal. It was biblical, cultural, existential. In that moment, both of them saw love die, and something much darker take its place. The breaking point consumed by fury, Marcus stormed into the garage, his vision blurred with tears and rage. He grabbed a hammer, its cold weight in his hand a physical manifestation of his anguish. Ebony stood in the bedroom, trembling. She tried to reason with him, her voice cracking under the strain of fear. "Marcus, please, don't do this. We can work through this." But Marcus was beyond reason. In his mind, her betrayal was unforgivable. He raised the hammer, bringing it down with relentless force. The room filled with the sound of her screams, each one more desperate than the last. But soon, the screams were replaced by a deafening silence. The walls of their home, once filled with laughter and love, now bore witness to an unspeakable act of violence. Each strike wasn't just an act of violence, it was an eruption of internalized rage society never allowed him to process. Ebony's cries were pleas not only for her life, but for recognition, that she was real, that she was human, that she was loved. But when love dies, empathy often dies with it, and in its place, monsters are born. A life rewritten in blood. In one catastrophic moment, a future built on dreams was rewritten in blood. An ending that no one saw coming, and one that leaves more questions than answers. All the plans, the memories, the vows, they were now soaked in red, buried beneath rage and regret. Marcus didn't just kill his wife, he destroyed every version of himself that once knew love. The silence that followed the violence was not peace. It was the echo of humanity lost. The house stood still, as if holding its breath, mourning the love that had turned to murder. What once was a home became a tombstone for promises that never stood a chance against fear and fury. And in that irreversible moment, the line between victim and perpetrator blurred under the weight of suppressed truth. The aftermath. A scene of horror. When police arrived, they were greeted by a scene so gruesome that even seasoned officers were shaken. Blood stained the walls and carpet, a stark contrast to the neatly decorated room. Marcus sat on the floor, the hammer still in his trembling hands. His clothes were soaked in blood, his eyes vacant and unseeing. "I didn't know," he whispered over and over. "I didn't know." The crime scene wasn't just graphic, it was haunted. Officers would later say it was the quiet that disturbed them most, as if the house itself was mourning. Marcus didn't flee. He didn't fight. He simply broke, shattered beyond recognition, surrounded by the aftermath of his own undoing. A community in shock news of the crime sent shockwaves through the community. Neighbors, friends, and family struggled to reconcile the Marcus they knew. A kind, hard-working man with the brutal murderer described in the headlines. Ebony's friends mourned the loss of a vibrant, loving woman whose life was cut short in a moment of blind rage. "She didn't deserve this," one friend said. "She was brave, strong, and full of love." The church where they once held hands in prayer now held candlelight vigils in her memory. Conversations that were once light-hearted turned to hushed whispers and solemn stares. For some, the tragedy sparked dialogue about identity, acceptance, and the price of societal shame. Conversations long overdue. A tragic reminder. This haunting tale forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about love, identity, and the devastating consequences of secrets. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the destructive power of unchecked emotions. The story of Marcus and Ebony is not just a crime. It's a tragedy that challenges us to reflect on the boundaries of acceptance, understanding, and forgiveness. In the end, it's a chilling testament to how love can turn into a nightmare when the truth comes too late. It calls into question the standards we place on others to earn love, and the limits of our own capacity for empathy. Ebony's silence was not betrayal. It was survival in a world that rarely welcomes difference with open arms. And Marcus's unraveling reveals the dangerous void left when masculinity is built without room for vulnerability or nuance.